everyone! Let's talk about front-end project structure. But before we will start, remember to subscribe our channel with the red button down there and turn on the notifications and give us thumbs up. Hello everyone and welcome in the next episode. Today we are going to talk about front-end project structure. So, what we are going to do? We will select one of the most popular front-end framework, and on this example I will show you how to select the best structure for the front-end project to make it maintainable and scalable. Also, I'll try to explain you how the application flow works, and then we will go to 3 methods that are good for the front-end project. I will explain you which method is better for what kind of project, and I will show you some pros and cons of each method. Let's start!
So, the question is how to plan your front-end project structure. Since modern front-end frameworks and libraries came into play, the client side became responsible for a big part of logic and functionality. Now, we even start building serverless projects where almost everything needs to be processed by the frontend. This approach requires us to carefully plan the project of the frontend application and organize the project in the best possible way to make it scalable and easily maintainable. But before we will start organizing our application folder structure, it's important to understand the flow of our application and to know what kind of technology is going to be used as a main stack of the front-end project we are going to organize. Right now we have 3 the most popular front-end frameworks: React.js, Angular and Vue. In this example, I decided to focus on a React.js application because this front-end stack it's a choice of many companies and it brings a lot of difficulty for developers. React.js doesn't provide a lot of insight about structuring the code base as, for example, Angular does. Besides that, installing additional libraries and plugins necessary for React applications like Redux, React Router requires the initial structure to be changed for the better maintainability and scalability of our application. And of course, as always, it's better to do it at the beginning of the development than try to change everything when our deadline is close, right? The first thing that we have to do when we know what kind of application we are going to structure is to understand the flow of the application. So, let's take a look at this image I've prepared for you. Here we have a React.js application flow illustrated. So, in the image I've illustrated what happened in React.js application with Redux and React Router. As you can see, when the user interacts with the application, the router shows the user a particular view with the components, because there are view components which contains some other components and they build the view that user can see. So, the particular component can connect with Redux if it needs to interact with any data. So let's go a little bit deeper into what happened in Redux. When the action is called, then there are 2 options. It might call the API or not. Action is dispatched and the data is sent to the store of the application. When the change happens in the store, it emits the change event and events and components get the updates. So, we know how it works, so we can now talk about the ways to structure our folders in React.js. But before we will start, I would like to tell you what it means to make application maintainable and scalable, because I'm talking about that from the beginning, so let me tell you. If our application grows and it has a lot of files, then we need it to be maintainable, which means that we can interact with the existing code in an easy way. So we can add new features and We can easily improve others, debugging is not a problem. And scalability is possibility to grow our application in an easy way. Okay, let's go to the structures. We will start from the easiest one, and it's called a flat structure. We can use the flat structure of the folders in a front-end application. This is one of the most common structures where the root folder of our application, we separate the logic from the views and Redux related files. And as an example, I decided to take a blogging platform which will have comments and posts. So let's take how it looks in the flat structure. So we have folders inside our source file. And the first one is API, and in this folder we create everything what's responsible for API calls. So we have the API file with a handler, that the function which connects the API, and we have two other files, posts and comments, and they are responsible for all the code that interacts with the posts or comments component in API. The next folder is components folder, where we place presentational components without logic. In our case, it's a post component and comment component. Then, in every application, there are some common components used in the whole space of the application, and we need for them some specific place. That's why, in my example, I have a shared folder where I put components like pop-up, button, modal, which can be used in different components and different views. The next folder is the containers folder. What are containers in React? They are components and consist of other components, and they have logic inside. So, for example, if we have post list container, it can contain a post component inside and some logic to build it. And next we have two Redux folders. One is for actions and one is for reducers, and that's how they are called. And inside those folders we put actions and reducers for each component and its functionality, let's say. And the last two files are app.js and store.js. App.js is our main component of the application, and store.js is our store file for the Redux. Okay, what are pros of using flat structure? It's easily understandable code structure that helps in the easier onboarding process of new developers, because if a new person comes and they just see it and the application is not huge, then it's really easy to go inside and understand what's going on. It's also easier and faster for development without the advanced structure, because developers doesn't have to pay attention at the beginning and they don't have to understand the deep logic behind the structure of the folders. But this structure also has some cons, so let's go through them as well. So there are not separated folders for the whole Redux. So Redux folders and files are everywhere in the application, and it can be a little bit uncomfortable when it will grow. Also, if the project grows, it can be difficult to find a certain file in case of debugging or maintaining the older code. Besides that, when we are adding new feature, we need to change a lot of folders and we have to work on the whole root folder. So if the development team is big, it can bring some blocking issues. Let's summarize. If the application is not large and not going to grow a lot, this solution can work pretty well. Another factor that should be considered when selecting the flat structure should be if the application has more view and logic components or a bigger state. If the application consists of view and logic mostly, then the flat structure will be very easy to maintain. But in case of the bigger state, the reorganization might be necessary and creating some more Redux-friendly structure of the code. So in this case, there's no point to wait until application will grow, and this is not the right solution. The next structure that we can use is a domain-driven design structure. Let me explain you what is domain-driven design first. And to understand this, we need to understand what is domain in the context of software development. Domain refers to the sphere of knowledge and activity around the application logic revolves. So we can say that domain in this case is a business logic of our application. So let's go a little bit deeper into domain-driven design in front-end development. To manage the complexity of the application with domain-driven design, we have to place our domains model in the context. To start organizing our application with domain-driven design, we have to organize our domains, so the main features of our application. It's worth remembering that there is no one correct way to do that. Let's take our blog platform as an example again, and let's take a look at the structure of the folders in React.js application using domain-driven design principles. So I divided it for 3 domains. The first is app, post, and comment. In this case, the structure of our React.js application will look a little bit differently, and it will look like the one on the screen. Here you can see 3 folders, one for app, one for post, and one for comment. And inside each of those, there are files connected to the particular feature. So there is a post component, post container, post reducer, post actions, and post list component. The same with the comment. And our app is like for reducers and the main file of the application. And besides that, inside the app, we can put the shared folder for the shared component because it belongs to the whole application. Also, some of you may ask another question here about the tests. Where should we place the test files in this kind of folder structure? So there are 2 options. One is to place the test files in the main domain folders, or the other one is to create another folder just for tests. So let's take a look at the pros of using this kind of structure. First of all, it's an easy pattern for development to divide the application according to an easy rule of domains. Besides that, this approach makes it easy, scalable, readable, and maintainable for developers. It's also easier to bring new developers to the project because the structure is pretty clear. Each feature has every file that it's necessary for that feature in one place, so we don't have to dig around all the root folder of the application. And besides that, when features of our application are totally separated, so if developers have to fix bugs in one part of the application, they don't mess in every folder. Besides that, even Redux files are the part of the domain folders, so if the application grows, there is no mess with the state. And that's about the pros. Let's take a look at the cons. So first of all, it might take some time at the beginning to understand the main domains of our application business logic. Domain-driven design is better for a bigger application where we can find at least 3 or 4 domains. This approach is one of the most functional in React.js applications development. It works well in large and small applications, no matter if they are more focused on a view and logic or the state. It's also a great solution when the future of the application is not clear, because when there will be need to make changes or add new features, that will be really fast and easy. And the only disadvantage I see here is that developers have to spend a lot of time in the beginning on preparing and understanding the architecture and the domains of the application. Besides that, development should be pretty easy and really pleasure. And let's go to the third and the last structure of React.js application folders. So we will see this one. And the last one is a view state split structure. It's similar to the flat structure, but it has an improvement. All the Redux folders and files are gathered in one directory, and the folders responsible for the view and logic stay as they were in the root folder. In this approach, it's much better structure for the applications which have a bigger state and need to keep lots of Redux-related files. Let's take a look at the example with our blog platform and view state split structure. So what we can see here that API, components, shared, and containers are totally the same like in our first example where we had the flat structure. But in this case, all the other Redux-related folders and files are gathered in the fifth folder called Redux. Now, what are the pros of a view state split structure? All the Redux code is put in one place, so the refactoring is pretty easy, especially when files are grouped by the feature inside the Redux folder. It's easy to find a certain part of the state, and maintaining of the application is not complicated, and also creating new features is simple because it's enough to add one folder for all the Redux functionality. And let's also check some of the cons of our view state split structure. So, if the application is large with a big view and logic layer and also a big state, it can become difficult to maintain because of the necessity of finding the state corresponding to the particular view. Besides that, it can be difficult to bring new developers into coding in a short time, as the structure can be a little bit difficult to understand. So, let's summarize also this structure. In most cases, a view state split approach will be a good solution for medium-sized applications that are not going to grow a lot. If the team of developers working on the project is big, there might be some blocking issue in that case, but if the team of developers isn't very big or the app is developed by just 1 or 2 people, it should be totally fine. Great! Let's go through the fast summary. So, if you have a big application and big team of developers or application that the future is not really clear and it might grow a lot, the best solution will be to select domain-driven design way of structuring the React.js application. If the application is small, it's not going to be big, and the state is not a big part of that application, it's just more focused on the view and logic, then you should select simply the flat structure. If your application is medium-sized, state is not so small but it's also not too big, and the team of developers it's not big, then the best solution for you would be the view state split structure. I hope you find this video very useful and it will be helpful when you are going to plan your next front-end project. Thanks for watching!
Congratulations! Now you know how to structure your front-end project with React.js, Redux, and some additional libraries. I hope it will be very useful knowledge for you, especially that React.js is one of those frameworks that are not very insightful about this topic, like for example Angular is. So, if you liked the video, remember about thumbs up and remember to leave us a comment and subscribe our channel with the red button down there. I hope to see you all in the next video. And if you like videos like this, remember to let us know in comments. Bye!